My original intention with this video was to make it as a comparison of the two units, the RH Designs Analyser Pro and the Stop Clock Pro. The problem with it was that it would have turned into an absolute mammoth video, which I think would have bored some of you absolutely rigid. So I've decided to make it into 3 parts. One will be a sort of overview of the Analyser Pro and how it works. The second will be more about the Stop Clock Pro and how that works, and I might even learn to say it right. And then the third will be sort of like a wrap up kind of comparison, pros and cons type of thing. My intention is I want to try and keep these videos quite short and just give you a general overview of how the unit works and what it can do, rather than make it really in depth with lots of detail and the ins and outs of every last function that the units can do. I think there's a place for that, but for what I'm trying to do, I don't really want to get into that at this point. So we've got the negative set up in the Enlarger, and we'll go through how you use the Analyser Pro. So we've got the unit fired up now. It defaults to 15 seconds and grade 2, which you can see on the display. So you can select a number of different paper options with this. The idea being that for each paper that you use, you would do a series of calibrations for that particular piece of paper and the developer that you use. So right now we've got this set up for paper 2, which is Ilford Multigrade 5 or whatever it's called, the latest resin coated multigrade paper from Ilford. So that's set for that, and now we'll go through the process of how you measure for an exposure. So just to give you a brief overview of the buttons on the unit, this is a focus button. This here is your exposure time, your start stop. You can pause it at any point like that and restart it again. So we'll just let that run down. You've got a number of buttons over here which do different things. So when this stops, I'll show you. You have this one increases the grade. So right now it's grade 2.5, grade 3, 3.5, 4. So you can go up in stops of or grades of half a grade. This is your exposure time adjustment. This here selects your paper type that you're going to use, which I've explained about before. That's just a brief overview of the buttons and stuff that the unit has. What we'll do now is we'll set up the negative on the easel and then go through that part. Okay, so you can probably just about make out the image on the easel. So I'm just going to tweak this slightly. Set up correctly on the easel. We're going to take the first of our 2 measurements within the image to determine our exposure time. So the first place I'm going to take a reading from is in this area. So I'll press that like that and we'll get a time. So now we're going to take a meter reading from an area of highlight where we want to keep detail, which is in the sky, because there was some detail in the sky. So we'll click that, and that's given us, I'm going to turn the camera around now, bear with me. That's now given us an exposure time of 24.4 seconds. But what you'll notice is that this indicator, which is the shadow area indicator, is flashing. Now the reason for that is if I print at 24 seconds, the sky will have detail. However, the shadow area will have too much exposure and therefore block up the shadows. Well, obviously we don't want that to happen. So what you do is you back off the exposure time, which is this button here. So I'll back that off until that indicator moves. Now you'll see it's moved one place across, which now means we will get detail in our shadow area. You'll notice that the highlight indicator has started to flash, but I'll show you something of that in a minute that we can do once you've made the base exposure. So what we'll do now is we'll make our base exposure. Okay, so we have our paper now set up in the easel, as you can see. So we will make our first exposure at grade 2. Right, so that's the first exposure done. Now, if you recall me saying, and I'm going to move the camera back around now to show you, we've made our first exposure now, and you recall that I was saying that we'll lose our highlight detail at that exposure. So what we can do is we can make a second exposure to increase the density in the sky. So how we do that is we'll increase the burn-in time. So right, it's just started to move away, so we'll give it one more, which gives us 35.2. Now we have our highlight details where we want them. We can hold down this exposure button and it gives us the difference. Now we'll dodge in the sky, burn in the sky,
which will give us a bit more density in our sky. There we go.
Exposure's made, print's done. We'll put it in the chemicals and then come back and see what we've got. Developed the print, I've washed it and it's dry, so I'll show you the result now. And that's what you get. And that's from 2 readings from the easel that you saw me do earlier on, and the additional burn on the second exposure, just to give a little bit more detail and texture here in the sky, which I think is really effective. But yeah, literally one print and that's what you've got. Now, if I was doing that traditionally, there would be multiple test strips, probably another print to, just to make sure that my test strip was right, and then I'll probably be needing to do some dodging and burning as well. So I might get to this result in maybe 3 or 4 prints, as opposed to just doing it in one go. So that's the real advantage of this unit, is the time you save not doing test strips. Now for me, and I'll get into this probably in the third video, I think there's benefits and trade-offs with that, but you can't deny that straight off the get-go, that's a pretty good result. And that's the sort of result you can expect consistently out of this unit. So look, there you go, guys. The unit is very straightforward to use. It produces fantastic results very consistently. I think for me, if one of the reasons why I bought it originally, the unit, was because having not really had any darkroom training or experience in a darkroom, I'd made prints with a traditional timer, and I always questioned, well, what does a good print look like? And I was always happy with the prints that I'd done, but I was quite curious to see what, say, an automated type of machine would come up with as a comparison. And it is really effective, really effective. So I can't speak highly enough of the unit. It's very effective, very easy to use. You need to spend a little bit of time doing the calibrations, which is a bit of a bore, but it's well worth putting that extra time into doing that. And then once you've done that, you'll just get great results with this unit. It's really, really good. So that's a thumbs up from me for the RH Designs Analyser Pro. It's a really good unit.